Hey everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to another Makers with Heart video collaboration. This month, the Makers with Heart are celebrating the color of the year, Journey. I'm going to create 3 different cards and I'll be using the stamp set that is called Happy Snail Trails. Okay, so this is the Journey cardstock and I'm going to show a couple different techniques. This is the ink. And there are sequins and glitter gems and dots and shimmer trim and a shimmer brush, all in this beautiful journey color. Okay, so this is the Happy Snail Trails stamp set. I'm also going to use some of the current embossing folders and also the decorative shapes thin cut set. Okay, so if you don't have the embossing folders, hit up your stash, see what you have, and I'm going to use these thin cuts to cut several shapes of the journey paper. Okay, so now this is a technique using an embossing folder. The first one I'm going to use is the Swiss dots, and you want to make sure that you ink up the debossed side, so the dots are going down into the folder. Okay, so you can tell which side you're working on. If you can't tell the deboss side, it's the side that has the Close to My Heart label on it. Okay, so I'm using a brayer and I'm going to ink it up with Journey ink, and I'm going to ink that debossed side of the embossing folder. So it will be inking around the dots. It'll be the background. Okay. And then just spritz it a couple times with fine mist. This is the Tim Holtz water sprayer. And I'm going to place a few of these shapes in the embossing folder and run it through. Okay, so I get it emboss. And this is a new embossing folder, so the paper did crack a bit and you can see some of the white core, but I decided I kind of liked that look. So the more you use your embossing folder, the less your paper will crack, and you can also run through like 2 sheets of cardstock at once, and that'll help loosen up the folder. But I liked this look, so I'm going to go with it, and I'll just go ahead and keep repeating this until all my little shapes are embossed. So we'll go ahead and do another one. This time I'm going to spritz the paper and the inked side. Sometimes if your paper is a little bit wet, it gets a better emboss. Okay, so now I'm going to set all of these up on a piece of white daisy that I have cut at 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm just gonna set all these up so I have a nice patterned background. And then I will glue each of these shapes down. And I'll glue a couple and then I'll skip ahead. So just putting each of these shapes down to create a patterned background. And it works a lot better if you use wet glue, because then you can move things around before the glue dries. And then I'll bring in my guillotine trimmer and I'm going to cut off the excess that hangs over the edges, and make sure you hang on to all these little bits, because you're going to use some of these leftovers to fill in those bottom gaps. So I'm just trimming around the edges and cutting off those extra pieces. Get a clean edge. And then I'm going to use some of these scraps to fill in these bottom areas. So we'll glue those pieces down and then we'll have a completely covered background. Okay, now I'm going to do some stamping. So I have some of these snails and mushrooms stamps in my Misty. I'm going to stamp them on some white daisy. I'm going to use 2 of these images for this card, and then the other 2 I'll use for the next card. So I'm just inking them up in black ink and stamping them out, and then off camera I will color them in using tri-blend markers, and I will cut them out with the coordinating die. Okay, so got these cute little guys all done. And now we're ready to continue on. I'm going to stamp my sentiment, and then I'm going to bring in some white daisy. So we'll stamp my sentiment in Journey ink. And this one says, "You've got mail." And then I'm going to cut this out with one of the shapes from the Decorative Shapes thin cut set. And from what I understand, we are expecting more of these in stock. So these are lots of cute nested shapes, and they also deboss some dashes and other treatments along with cutting the shapes out. Okay, so I have this larger shape, and I've cut some of the mix-in paper, and this has suns on it. It's really cute. And so it's the larger one, and that will be a base for my little snail. So now I've also cut another one in that same pattern paper of the banner shape. And it's the nested set so that it's just a little bit bigger than my sentiment. Okay, so I have everything laid out. I've also cut extra layers of this snail image so that I can stack them and create kind of a chipboard piece. And then I've also cut some extra layers of this other piece that's going under the mix-in paper so that it will have a little lift and dimension. Okay, so I'm going to start out with a base of honey butter, and that's cut at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it's going to go on my card base, and it is the light side of honey butter. And then we'll layer in our patterned paper that we created with lots of texture on it. And just basically gluing everything together. And we'll go ahead and add a piece of shimmer trim. This Journey shimmer trim, it is so pretty, along with the Journey glitter paper that I won't be using that in this in any of my projects today, but oh my goodness, that Journey shimmer or glitter paper is just gorgeous, and the shimmer trim. So I'm just going to layer everything in together. And then we have this larger shape that's sort of a base background for the snail and the mushroom. These snails are so cute. This one's holding a little envelope. Okay, then I'm going to bring in some glitter gems. Put a couple of those down. And then for the last step, I'm going to bring in some liquid glass for the eyes of the snail. So we'll put a couple of dots there. And it starts out a little cloudy, but as the liquid glass dries, it clears up. So cute. And here's some close-up shots of this card. Okay, let's try another technique. This time I'm going to use the flowered background embossing folder, and I'm using some Distress Oxide ink, and this is a pigment-like ink. It's pigment and water-based ink that oxidizes when you spray it with water. So I'm going to use my brayer and get this all over that debossed side of my embossing folder. So the flowers will turn out to be the darker color of Journey, and then the background will be lighter. So I'm going to go ahead and spritz my cardstock and also the oxide ink. And then we'll run that through. Okay. All right, so I've dried this off camera using my heat tool. And then I'm going to bring in some of this other mix-in paper and an older die cut set, and it's called Fancy Borders, and it cuts a stitched edge so it looks like a grassy hill. And this paper, that's the mix-in paper, it's a sage color. And then I'll bring in some of this sun paper from the mix-in collection and cut a circle from the circle thin cut set. So off camera, I've colored in the snail and the mushrooms, and I've layered 2 extra layers of white underneath the snail for some dimension, and it feels like chipboard. And now I'm going to stamp my sentiment. So again, I'm going to bring in this piece of sun paper, and I've die cut it using one of the decorative shapes with the banner, and then I'll stamp my sentiment. So I have some Journey ink, and I'll stamp out "You're Amazing" on this banner image. Okay. All right. Now we're ready to assemble, and at first I thought I was going to use the light side of papaya as a base, but I'm going to bring in my card base here. And I changed my mind and decided to make my base, the edges of the card base, so it would be white. So we'll go ahead and start assembling. And we'll just glue everything together. Make sure we have that white border. And then we'll add that piece of mix-in that looks like a grassy hill. Then I'll add in the circle from the mix-ins that has suns on it. And just piece everything together. And the good thing about using the glue is that you do have a second to change your mind and shift things around. And then I decided to bring in some of the outlined alphabet thin cuts. And I'm going to cut them in both papaya and Journey. So when you run this through on the pass, you get an outline cut out and also the solid. So I've got the letters H and I cut out, and I'm deciding which I want. If I want the papaya color in the center for the solid with the Journey outline, or vice versa. And ultimately I decided I liked the Journey in the solid center. So we're going to use that one. I'll save the other ones for another card. So these alphabet thin cuts, they're also on order, and hopefully we'll be getting more of these in stock pretty soon. Okay, so I have those glued down, and then I'm going to speed this up super fast. I'm bringing in my shimmer brush, and I'm just coloring the larger flowers just to add a little extra shimmer. So I'm just going to paint all around and get some darker Journey color and some shimmer. And then the last step is to add some liquid glass to the eyes of the snail. And that one's all done. So cute. Okay, so here's some close-up shots, and you can see that shimmer brush on those flowers in the background. And liquid glass for the snail. So cute. Okay, last card. This time I'm going to do a blend, and I've sped this up super fast. Just taking some Journey ink and a blending brush, and below it I have my Altenew sticky mat so my paper doesn't roam around, and I'm just blending and creating an ombre. So I've got it darker towards the bottom and it fades out to a lighter version of Journey. And then I'm going to run this whole thing through the Swiss Dot embossing folder. Okay, so we'll place that in there. And happy accident, I debossed it instead of embossing it, and I actually kind of liked it. So the dots go down on this ombre piece. And now I'm going to take some regular Journey and emboss it so the dots go up. So if you want to make sure your dots go up, make sure that the Close to My Heart label is facing up when you run it through, and you'll have it right. So I'm taking this embossed piece and I'm going over it with a blending brush, but then I decided to just go ahead and swipe it with the ink so that all of the dots were a darker color. So it's tone on tone, but the dots show up better with that ink swiped over them. Kind of experimenting here, and I liked it, so it worked. Okay, so now I have my components, and off camera I've colored in my little snail and mushroom and then die cut them. And then I have a piece of paper cut from the Honey Bunny collection, and I used the decorative shapes and cut a heart. And then I'm going to stamp my sentiment on this sun paper from the Mix In collection, and it says Hello Sunshine. And then I've cut the arrow out from the decorative shapes collection for my sentiment. Okay, so this is the basic lineup of how I've got everything laid out. So we'll trim down that embossed piece of Journey. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a piece of shimmer trim right where those two pieces of cardstock meet. And then I decided that instead of using honey butter for my background base, I wanted to use limeade. So I brought that in and cut it down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So we'll go ahead and layer that in just to change up a little bit. I liked the honey butter too, but I decided let's do a pop of the limeade. And then I'll just layer in all these pieces. Get that ombre piece put down. And then we'll add the Journey over it. And layer in the shimmer trim. So all of the Makers with Heart this month are celebrating the colored journey and creating lots of fun projects using this color, and also featuring some cardstock treatments and techniques. So check out their videos. I'll create a playlist and I'll put it at the end of this video, and I'll have a link in the description below so you can find all the other Maker with Hearts videos. So we'll get everything layered in here and glued down. I will also make a list of all the supplies that I used with links in the description below. And of course, with the closing of Close to My Heart, whatever you see, if you're thinking about getting something, you should probably get it pretty quickly before it sells out. Okay, then we'll go ahead and layer in the snail, and because part of it's hanging off the edge of that heart, I needed to add some foam tape below it so it would stay on the same plane. And then I'm going to bring in some sequins, and we'll scatter a whole bunch of those around. They come in all different sizes and shades of journey. So I'll pull a bunch of those and scatter a whole bunch around, and I'll glue those down off camera. And of course, to finish off, I'm going to add some liquid glass to the eyes. And there's my finished card. And here's some close-up shots. They're so cute. So I appreciate you watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button, and then you'll be able to find all of my videos. And thanks for watching.